I don't usually wrap myself up in the internet mess, but this one it just bothered me so damn much. There's a white boy that's gone viral talking about dating black women. And in this video, he says that black men have intimidated and threatened him so bad when they see him with a black woman. And then he starts encouraging other white men who date black women to get a gun to protect themselves from black men. Now, all that, as outrageous as it is not the reason I'm making this video. The comments are. Because as I started reading them, I started noticing how many black women were agreeing with him. They were encouraging him, speaking negatively about black men as a group as a whole. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. This white man is telling other white men to arm themselves because of black men. And there are black women in his comments helping him make their argument. Do we understand what we're co-signing here? Because I'm watching black women, some black women, help reinforce the idea that black men are inherently threatening and dangerous to a white guy. And do we not recognize that? Because I do. We have absolutely seen this story before. Now, I'm not saying that black women are responsible for defending black men. We're not. Black women should be able to talk about our experiences with black men, just like black men should be able to talk about their experiences with black women. But there is a distinct difference in talking about what a person did and deciding that that behavior tells you something about all black people. And reading those comments just started making me think about something that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about a lot. How black people see ourselves as a group, how we value each other, how much racial pride actually shows up in the way that we deal with one another. And it made me start thinking about racial self-esteem. Not, are you proud to be black? I'm proud to be black, that's easy. But how highly do we think of each other? Because you can love being a black woman and think very little of black men. And a black man can love being a black man and have absolutely terrible things to say about black women. We see both all the time. So what does it really mean to have pride in your race if that same pride doesn't extend to half of it? And once I started thinking about it that way, I started thinking about all these little things that we've been saying to each other forever. She got good hair. He cute for a dark-skinned boy. Or, don't get too black. Stay out that sun. I've heard them all. And none of those statements came from nowhere. Somebody taught us how to rank ourselves, right? Now, this is where Mamie and Kenneth Clark come in. In the 1940s, the Clarks were studying racial identity in black children. And I'm saying Mamie first intentionally because this research grew out of work that she started while she was in graduate school. They worked with black children using dolls, one black, one white. And they asked questions. Which doll would you like to play with? Which doll is nice? Which doll is bad? And many of the black children preferred the white doll and were more likely to assign positive qualities to that white doll and negative qualities to the black one. Then they asked, which doll looks like you? And some of these children struggled. They became upset. And think about what you've just asked that baby to do. You told me which doll you think is nice. You've told me which one you think is bad. Okay, now which one are you? And these are children. They didn't create segregation. They didn't invent racism. But many of them were already associating positive qualities with whiteness and negative qualities with blackness before they were ever even old enough to understand where these ideas came from. So how? Right? Look at the world they were growing up in. For generations, this country had been telling black people exactly what they thought we were. During slavery, many slave states restricted or criminalized teaching black people how to read. Then you had doctors, scientists in universities teaching racial hierarchy as biology. And then there were the images. Mammy figures, black people drawn with exaggerated features, black children depicted as animals, caricatures on postcards, advertisement, toys, household products. Ferris State University's Jim Crow Museum has thousands of racist objects and images like this in its collection. And this stuff was everywhere. Nobody had to sit a black child down and say that black people are inferior. They could see where the world placed people that looked like them, who was beautiful, who was intelligent, who was respectable, who was stupid, lazy, ugly, dangerous. Children notice, and eventually those ideas don't just stay outside of the black community. They come home. She got good hair. Don't get too black. He's cute for a dark-skinned boy. And the people saying those things might genuinely love you. Grandma didn't invent colorism. So sometimes instead of asking why Grandma said it, I want to know what happened to Grandma. What did she learn about being darker? What did somebody teach her about her hair? Who did she watch get treated better? Because some of this may have started as survival, and then survival became advice. And eventually, advice just became something we say. The Clark's work eventually became part of the legal fight against school segregation. And when the Supreme Court decided Brown v. Board in 1954, psychological research about the effects of segregation on Black children was cited in footnote 11. And that matters, because we weren't just looking at what racism did to Black people politically or economically. We were looking at what living inside a racial hierarchy could do to the way Black children saw themselves. And I think that's where the important distinction comes in. Talking to Black children about race isn't the problem. My dad talked to my brothers and me about race all the time. He used to have these talks with us about a thing called life, and he told them often enough to where my brothers and I recognized when one was coming. And of course, we skedaddle, we get up out of there because we were kids, mainly because those talks were long, real long. But one of the things that my dad made very clear to me was that I had some things that societally were going to work actively against me. I'm Black and I'm a girl. He wanted me to understand what that could mean for the way that the world treated me. But I never left those conversations thinking that there was something wrong with being Black or that there was something wrong with being a girl. My dad was not warning me about me. He was preparing me for other people. And I think that distinction matters. There's a difference between telling a little Black girl that somebody might treat you differently because you're Black and telling her, don't get too Black. One teaches her to recognize somebody else's prejudice. The other teaches her to participate in it. And then there's this contradiction that I just find so fascinating. Because for all the negative things that people have said about Black people, everybody seems to like Black culture just fine. Black music, Black fashion, Black language, Black hairstyles. White girls wearing door knockers. Asian kids wearing grills. People who aren't Black locking their hair. Now, I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm interested in what happens to the meaning depending on who's doing it. Because we've all seen things associated with us get treated as unprofessional or ghetto, and then watch those very same things get treated differently somewhere else. So clearly, the thing itself isn't the problem. And historically, this isn't new. White audiences could love Black music, while Black people themselves were segregated. Black entertainers routinely performed for white audiences in cities and venues where those same entertainers face discrimination in hotels, restaurants, and other accommodation. People can value Black culture without valuing Black people. Those two things have never been mutually exclusive. And that brings me right back to us. Because we can love Black culture too. We can love being Black. But how do we talk about one another? Because I watch some Black men get online and talk about how Black women are uniquely difficult, uniquely angry, uniquely undesirable. Most of the hate that I get online is from Black men. I see y'all. I just choose not to respond. Because for what? But then I read those comments and saw Black women doing their version of the same thing to Black men. And I don't think either one is racial pride. That doesn't mean that Black people can't criticize each other. Sometimes people are wrong. Talk about what they did, hold them accountable. But when does this person did this thing wrong turn into, this is what Black men are like? All of them. Or this is what all Black women are like. Because we know exactly what that feels like when somebody else does it to us. We should probably recognize when we do it to each other. Yeah? We know now that the messages that Black children receive about race matters. Researchers call it ethnic racial socialization, teaching children about their history and culture, giving them pride in who they are. And yes, preparing them for racism. My dad prepared me. But racism was never the definition that he gave me for being Black. And I think that's the balance, Before you tell a Black child what somebody else might think of them, make sure they already know who they are. And not only through struggle, because sometimes we teach Black history like we just appeared during slavery, suffered for a few hundred years, then marched with Dr. King. And here we are. That's not our history. We built communities, businesses, schools, families. We made art. We made music. We invented things. We loved each other. We laughed together. We lived. Black history has to include Black life, because pride can't grow entirely out of knowing what somebody else did to you. And that brings me back to why those comments bothered me so much. Because it's easy to say, I'm proud to be Black. I am. But maybe that's the easier question. Maybe the harder question is, how do I feel about Black people? Not just Black people who agree with me. Not just Black people that I would befriend. Not just Black people who make us look good. People. Can I see a Black person do something wrong without making Blackness a part of the explanation? Can I criticize another Black person without reaching for the same stereotypes that have been used against us? Because if racial self-esteem means anything, I think that has to be part of it. Not believing that we're perfect because we're not. Nobody is. Not defending somebody just because they're Black. Just believing that we're human enough to be individuals, okay? And I keep coming back to those children sitting in front of Mamie and Kenneth Clark. Which doll is nice? Which doll is bad? Which doll looks like you? Many of those children were already associating the positive qualities with whiteness and the negative ones with Blackness. And all these years later, maybe the question isn't just whether we learn to love being Black. Maybe we also have to ask whether we learn to love Black people. Because after reading those comments, I really think there is a difference.
This 5-year-old girl gave some provocative answers during her test. I asked her about them later.
How about you? Why do you want that skin color?
Because it looks lighter than this kind, because this looks a lot like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't like the way brown looks, because the way brown looks really nasty for some reason, but I don't know what reason. That's all.
So you think it looks nasty?
Well, not really, but sometimes.
Sometimes. And Brielle, they asked what color adults don't like. Do you remember what you said? Which one? That's right, that's what you said. Why do you think adults don't like that color?
Dark.
Dark. And adults, you think adults don't like dark?
Well, maybe some adults do, but maybe some of them don't.
A lot of people don't realize how much they hate Black people until they meet a Black person who has the things that they thought that they were entitled to. Or at the very least, the things that they thought they would be able to get above Black people. Because the only sense of worth that you have is that you thought you were better than a Black person or above a Black person on the hierarchy of American society. And so when a Black person has a nicer house than you, or a better education than you, grew up in a better neighborhood than you did, has better clothes, has had more interesting experiences, all of a sudden, like, the anger and the rage and the jealousy starts to boil up, and you're like, what is that feeling? It's racism. It's racism. You didn't realize it was there because you don't have a problem with Black people who are your maids and your janitors and the person who takes out your trash, which are all legitimate jobs, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you meet a Black person who's like a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, a businessman, businesswoman, like the people that raised me and that I grew up around, who grew up in beautiful homes and send their kids to the best schools in the city, best schools in the country, all of a sudden, the demon starts to come out and you're confused. It's because you're racist. You're racist. And you thought that your whiteness or your proximity to whiteness gave you some sense of value and some sense of meaning, because at least I'm better than a Black person. At least I'm above a Black person. Are you though? Really? What did your whiteness really get you? What did your proximity to whiteness get you? I'm thinking of that Gabrielle Union meme where she says,
okay, now how did your life change? Did you get the guy? Did you get the job? Is your house any bigger? Did money just magically, get put in your pocket?
no? Right. Well,
If I were Tyler, I would have been told y'all to go to hell. Because expecting someone from the other side of the world to assimilate to American racial frameworks, it's xenophobic. It screams American exceptionalism, and it reeks of severe main character syndrome. The world does not revolve around the United States, its racial categories, its one-drop rule, and it's high time we stopped acting like it did. Tyla is colored. That is what her ethnicity is in her country. I understand that the word colored carries a different historical meaning here in the United States, but words change meaning when you cross borders. In South Africa, colored refers to a distinct group with its own history, its own culture, its own language even, Afrikaans. I actually had the privilege of living in South Africa as a youngin', where I lived among colored communities. I learned Afrikaans and really gained a deep understanding and respect of their culture and identity. Then I moved to the United States, learned American history, as well as the historical meaning of the word colored here in America. But my prior understanding of what the word meant in South Africa did not impede me from understanding what it means here in the States. You're not understanding something very simple. Words, identities, histories don't magically stay the same when you cross a border. That's the part that I think a lot of Americans are having trouble with, because I've seen the same phenomenon manifest whenever they're presented with a Black Hispanic person, because they think that those two identities are mutually exclusive. But that's a conversation for another.
People mad at me because I said Black folks ain't letting the N-word slide. And we not. We not letting it slide. Stay mad. Y'all can stay mad. See, I think the problem is that traditionally, Black people have been very forgiving. Black Americans have been very forgiving. Our culture is Christianity, and it's been turn the other cheek and all of that. And we're not doing that no more. Okay? We're like a scapegoat in a family, in a narcissistic family unit that woke up and decided they're not taking it no more. And if that makes us the villain, so be it. I don't know what to tell y'all. I really don't care. I don't care. Because we've been taking it for far too long. Far too long. People do stuff to us and we supposed to apologize. Like, what? We're supposed to just be like, oh, it's okay, we understand. No, we don't understand. I don't care what your reason is. I don't care if you got a disability. I don't care. I've taken it for far too long. It's over. We're not forgiving no more.